Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
All right, and welcome to the GSMC Football Podcast. This episode is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network, and as always, I am your host, Jesse Tapia. All right, let me tell you what's going on today. Jameis Winston getting suspended for 3 games. Hasn't really done too much in his first 3 years in the league. Does Tampa Bay need to cut him? All right. They might. All right. So we'll talk about that for the first segment. I'll give my thoughts on it all. Second segment, we're going to talk about some of the young quarterbacks coming into the league right now. So some of the guys, they're young, but they're about to hit their prime, all right? Which young quarterback would I take? I mean, talking about guys like Carson Wentz, Dak Prescott, all right. Let's see, and a couple of others. So we'll talk about that. Third segment, we'll talk about some teams flying in under the radar that maybe could surprise some people as far as maybe some Super Bowl hopes and all. All right. Obviously, you got the Patriots, you got the Eagles, the Steelers, okay. But what about those other teams that no one's really paying attention to? Could they make a run? We'll be talking about that for the third segment. And then for the fourth segment, we'll be talking about anything else going on in the world of football. So that's how today's show is going to go. All right, so let's start off with Jameis Winston. Going to be getting suspended for the first 3 games of the season. It would have been 6, but they negotiated it down to 3. Okay, it's from one of his previous incidents. And the biggest question with Jameis Winston coming into the league was he mature enough to be a successful quarterback? Obviously, that's not really the case right now. Okay. Jameis Winston has always had the tools to become a great quarterback, but he's never really had the right head on his shoulders to get there. Okay. And I think that Tampa Bay, obviously, you got to think of it like this, okay? You can think about cutting Jameis, but there's a point of planning for the future, all right? Because, looking at Jameis' stats, he hasn't really, let's compare him and Mariota real quick, okay? Mariota, his first season, he only started 12 games, went 3-9, completed 62% of his passes, 2,800 yards, 19 touchdowns, 10 picks. The next year, he plays 15 games, starts all of them, all right? Goes 8-7. 61% completion percentage, 3,400 yards, 26 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. This past year, they make the playoffs, which was probably his worst year statistically. They go 9-6 in his 15 starts. 62% completion percentage, 3,200 yards, 13 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. All right. Mariota has been all right. Last year wasn't that great, but nonetheless got him to the playoffs. Jameis' first year makes the Pro Bowl. They go 6-10. He completes 58% of his passes, 22 touchdowns, 4,000 yards, 15 interceptions. Okay. 2016, they go 9-7. He completes 61% of his passes, 4,000 yards, nearly 4,100, 28 touchdowns, 18 picks. All right. This past year, they play 16 straight games because of the hurricane. He's only able to start 13 of them because of a shoulder injury. In those 13 games, they go 3-10. 63% completion percentage, nearly 64. 3,500 yards, 19 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Jameis has been decent since he's came into the league, but could be better, and it's just a point where how do you know you can trust him going forward? Okay. I remember, too, Tampa Bay was talking about how he was their most researched player and all that coming into the draft, and obviously they didn't do enough work here. Okay. So like I said, there's a point where the question comes up, do we cut Jameis because of his immaturity? All right. Bleacher Report and mainly their draft analyst, Matt Miller, have talked about how the 2019 draft class is terrible. Okay? So that's one thing you got to account for if you're Tampa Bay. There's fan perception you got to account for, how much that means to you as the front office staff, and also the point of, if we do cut Jameis, who can we replace him with? Because I'll tell you this much right now, it's going to be Ryan Fitzpatrick for the first 3 games of the season. They're going to go 0-3 in all of those games. All right. Trust me, they will. I mean, they got to play the Saints. I think is it the Falcons, the Packers, and the Steelers? Let me check the first 3 games of the season. So they got to play the Saints, Eagles, and Steelers. Okay. I don't see a win there with Ryan Fitzpatrick playing quarterback. Then you get Jameis back. All right. Then you got to play a tough Bears team at Soldier Field. Week after that, you got to play a tough Atlanta team at home. All right. Then you got to play the Browns, who should be decent. The Bengals, you should be able to beat them. Then you got to play in Carolina. You got to play Washington, who's going to be good. New York is going to be good. I'm talking about the Giants. The 49ers are going to be better. Panthers, yeah, like I said, you got to play your division teams in your division twice. You got to play at Dallas also. All right. Tampa Bay does not have an easy schedule by any means. There's a few losses in there for Jameis Winston, not including the 3 that I already gave them. Okay. So let's see. With Jameis going out, let's pick their schedule right now. All right. Jameis is out. I got them going 0-3. Then you got the Bears. I'll give them a win there. Okay. Then you got the Falcons. I'll call that a loss. That's 1-4. All right. Then you got the Browns. I'll give them a win. That's 2-4. At the Bengals, 3-4. At Carolina, 3-5. Versus the Redskins, I'll go 3-6. At the Giants, 3-7. Versus the 49ers, that's at home, so I'll go 4-7. Panthers, 5-7. Saints, 5-8. All right. At Baltimore, 6-8. At Dallas, 6-9. Versus the Falcons, I'll go 6-10. All right. I think they're going to finish under 500. I mean, the best I think they could go is probably 7-9. Okay. And let's see. They go 7-9, 6-10. Jameis' first year went 6-10. Then he went 9-7. Then he went 3-10. Now it's another under 500 season for your team. Where is the proof that this guy is a franchise quarterback for you? All right. Where is it at? I don't see it. Okay, I really like Jameis Winston. Like I said, I think he could be a top 5 quarterback. But, I mean, are you going to wait on potential for that long? I don't think so. All right. And like I said, they cut him. It's going to hold them back a few years. Because next year's draft class isn't looking great for quarterbacks. And I'm not even sure what 2020's class is looking like. Maybe if you're the Bucs and Jameis Winston doesn't do well this season, you let him go. Maybe you can bring on a guy like Flacco. Maybe you're willing to take a chance on RG3. I'm sure Tyrod Taylor could be available. All right, maybe a guy like AJ McCarron, if he does well in Buffalo, you could trade for him. I mean, even Nick Foles. So that might be it right there for the Bucs. Okay, but how old is Nick Foles there too? Because you don't want to start off with a quarterback like that if he's old. All right. So let's see. Nick Foles is 29 right now. Let's see if we can find out his birthday. See what he's going to be when the season starts. All right. So he's going to be 29 when the season starts. He'll be 30 next season. That doesn't sound too bad. I mean, Case Keenum's 30 right now. He's going to be the starting quarterback for the Broncos. That might be an option that Tampa Bay needs to look at. All right. Jameis doesn't do well this season. You finish under 500. Cut Jameis. Trade for Nick Foles. Maybe you got something there. Okay. But like I said, there's a point where you can't wait on Jameis forever. Either the dude's going to realize that he's got to change some things up, or he's just going to be Jameis. Okay. And if you're Tampa Bay, you don't want to wait too long. You're probably better off getting rid of him too early. All right. And like I said, they're probably going to cut Jameis eventually one day. And he's going to go to a different team and play a whole lot better and look like he's finally got his head on straight there. But that's just how the NFL is. All right. So we'll see, but nonetheless, I mean, this isn't really something that Tampa Bay really wants to deal with, I'd say, considering the fact that they're coming off of a terrible season last year. All right, defense was terrible. Dirk Cutter wasn't even sure if he was going to keep his job. Now you're coming into your second season where you know you need to perform and do well, and your quarterback suspended for the first 3 games of the season. Essentially, I mean, taking you out of playoff contention or anything like that. All right, because you play in the toughest division in football, and you got 3 teams to start off the season who are no slouches. All of them, I think, made playoffs last year. All right. So, like I said, Tampa Bay definitely got some questions on their hands. Just a matter of, do you wait after this year? Do you do it now? Who knows? Okay, but seriously, they do need to think about whether or not they should cut Jameis Winston. So, next segment, we're going to be talking about some other quarterbacks, some of the younger ones in the league. I'm going to pick some out and talk about my favorites. So stay tuned, and I will be right back.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. We spent that first segment basically talking about whether or not the Bucs should cut Jameis Winston. That's, I think, one where if you go under 500 with him this season, then you cut him after this upcoming season. Then you maybe trade for a guy like Nick Foles, or maybe you sign a guy like Flacco. Okay. But nonetheless, I mean, they do got some questions there. It's just all a matter of, do they want to give up on this guy already? All right. And speaking of quarterbacks, we got some young ones in the league right now. We got your Jimmy Garoppolos, your Carson Wentz's, your Dak Prescott's. Okay, your Deshaun Watsons. Let's see, who else is a young quarterback in the league? I guess Marcus Mariota. We could still consider him one since he's still on his rookie contract. You Mitch Trubisky's. All right, then you got all the rookies that got drafted this year. Who's the best young quarterback in the league right now? And I guess what are we constituting as young? I guess this guy's on their rookie deals, okay? So Jared Goff. Garoppolo doesn't count, I guess, but he hasn't played enough, so we'll make an exception for him. Okay? So he's still, for me, a young quarterback. Like I said, Goff, Wentz, Prescott. Let's see, we'll go division by division. So in the NFC East, like I said, we got Prescott, we got Wentz. NFC North, we got Trubisky. South, we got Jameis, I guess. All right. NFC West, we got Garoppolo, Goff. I'm not going to count Rosen since he's not going to be starting this year. Okay. AFC East, no young quarterbacks. I mean, Tannehill's already on his second contract, so he doesn't count. AFC North, you got no young quarterbacks there either, really. Tyrod's a veteran. South, Deshaun Watson, Marcus Mariota. AFC West, Patrick Mahomes. And I don't think we can count Derek Carr either. He's not a young quarterback anymore. He already got his extension, so. Who's the best one out of those guys we just brought up? I think it's got to be Wentz, right? I mean, why wouldn't it be? Carson Wentz was on his way to winning MVP last season. Of course, he tears his ACL against the Rams. Didn't he throw a touchdown on that play, too, where he tore his ACL? I mean, that's some legendary stuff right there. All right. But nonetheless, let's look at his stats for his first 2 seasons. And I mean, you think the Eagles could have won the Super Bowl with him instead of Foles? I mean, I think maybe. Possibly. All right. But nonetheless, his first season, he completes 62% of his passes for 3,700 yards. Let's see how many touchdowns he get there. 3,700 yards, nearly 34, 16 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. All right, they go 7-9. 2017, he starts 13 games. All right, then he tears his ACL in that 13th game, I think it is. He goes 11-2, 60% completion percentage, nearly 3,300 yards, 4 yards off of it, 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Easily on his way to winning MVP. Okay? Easily. He gets hurt. Now it's a matter of, we think he could do the same thing with a torn ACL, coming off of a torn ACL. I mean, if you think he can, you got to assume that Deshaun Watson will too. All right. But I saw Deshaun Watson talk about he's going to have to change the way he plays and all that, or at least think about it due to his injury. I mean, it's not like he got hurt running the ball or anything. I think he was taking a, took off in practice? Is that what it was? And tore his ACL that way? All right. But nonetheless, I mean, Wentz was really good. Watson was really good last year too. All right. That's a guy that, he's got Hall of Fame type talent. All right. He was that good. I don't think people realize that enough or are choosing not to realize it. Okay? Like, literally, as soon as they went away from Tom Savage and went with Watson, it was night and day. Okay? There are guys like Richard Sherman saying that Watson was a top 10 quarterback, would have been a top 5 quarterback this upcoming season. I mean, we could have. Before he got hurt, threw for 1,700 yards, 19 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. That was only in 7 games. Okay? Well, he started 6, so essentially 6 games. I mean, who's to say that he doesn't have a better season than Wentz last year? Okay. And, of course, you got guys like Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott last year didn't look great, but, I mean, second-year players tend to have a down year considering the fact that now you got film on them and all that, and teams are more prepared for what they got to deal with. But also, I mean, it doesn't help that Dak Prescott was without his best offensive player in Ezekiel Elliott for 6 games. All right. I mean, for those 6 games, it seemed like teams weren't even stacking the box. Let's throw 6 DBs out there and try to have Dak beat us. All right? Because you're not going to stack the box against Alfred Morris, Rod Smith, or any of those guys. Okay? They're just not going to do it. So I'm curious to see how Prescott does this upcoming season. All right? Then you got Goff. Goff is a bit of a weird one. People, like, we compare Dak and Carson Wentz a lot. Okay, and it might just be due to the fact that they play in the same division, but also they came from the same draft class. People don't really associate Goff with those 2 quarterbacks. Okay, maybe it's because Goff had such a terrible rookie year. Like I said, that rookie year had to do a lot with Jeff Fisher, I think. Okay, because I mean, the next year you bring in Sean McVay and Goff plays extremely well. They have the best offense in the league. I mean, you go from having the worst offense in the league to the best offense in a year with no real change on offense. I mean, same running back, same receiver, same running back, same quarterback, couple of the same receivers. All right, no real substantial changes. I mean, that's got to be on the coach, right? But yeah, Goff doesn't really get thrown in amongst that conversation with Prescott and Wentz. And Goff might even be better than Prescott. Okay. Wentz right now is already a top 5 quarterback, or at least getting there. Goff and Prescott still got to develop to get there. All right, like I said, then you got Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, he looks good for the few times we've seen him. All right, he's won every game he started. That's got to account for something, right? But, I mean, what do we expect from Jimmy Garoppolo this season? He's 6th in the MVP odds to win it this season. There's a lot of expectations on Jimmy Garoppolo. All right, got a brand new deal, big old extension, a lot of guaranteed money. You think he's going to be able to deliver for San Francisco? I mean, as of right now, his number 1 receiver is Dante Pettis. And if it's not, then it's Garcon and Marquise Goodwin. And if that's the case, then how can you be excited about that? All right. You got a bunch of backups as your running backs. Defense. We don't got to worry about the defense right now, but they didn't have too many offense on offense, I'd say. All right. And if I'm John Lynch, I mean, I'd be looking at Des Bryant, seeing if he wants to come play for us. Okay? I don't think Dante Pettis was ever one of the best receivers in college in the nation. Okay? And you're expecting that guy to be your number one now? I mean, it could work. I'm just saying. Normally it doesn't. All right? So I don't think they got Jimmy Garoppolo enough help on that offense to be as good as they expect. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo could just be one of those quarterbacks too, though, who just elevate the play of the guys around him. All right? He could make Marquise Goodwin look like a number one. He could make Pierre Garcon look like a number one. All right? Dante Pettis could have a great rookie year, and who knows? All right? Like Jerick McKinnon, that's probably going to be their starting running back. I mean, McKinnon was always the backup for Adrian Peterson. Even with Peterson left, Vikings still didn't feel like they needed to make McKinnon the starting running back. They had to go out and draft a guy. All right? But who knows? Maybe he plays well too. So you got him. And like I said, with Deshaun Watson, I mean, that's a team where if Deshaun Watson plays how he did last season before he got hurt and sharpened some things up this season, they could win a Super Bowl within the next few years. Okay? Like, that's a possibility, and I don't think people realize that. He's that good. Okay, they have a team who's that good. If their defense can stay healthy, that's a Super Bowl caliber starting defense right there. Okay? You already got one of the best receivers in the league, a solid running back, a solid number 2 receiver. I mean, what else does this team need? Okay? I really, truly do think that Houston's going to find themselves in the Super Bowl within the next few years because of Deshaun Watson. Of course, unless that ACL injury sets him back. All right, he's just not the same player. So let's see, we talked about Deshaun Watson. Patrick Mahomes, I think he's going to be good this season. I've been kind of holding back on him. All right? It's just, I mean, you go from Alex Smith, who's doing well. You get rid of him for a guy that only played one game last season. All right? I mean, you already had a playoff team. Quarterback's an extremely part of your team. Mahomes doesn't play well. You're just wasting years now. Okay, where I'm almost positive Alex Smith would get you to the playoffs this season. All right. So with the Chiefs, it's just a matter of they better hope they got this right. I mean, maybe their plan is to maybe go like 8-8, 9-7 this season, or are they expecting to be a playoff team from the jump? Okay. And I mean, the thing about Mahomes is, like I said last year, you had Sean Payton saying that they were going to take Mahomes if he didn't go number 10 to the Chiefs, or 11, or whatever pick he was. So, I mean, there was other teams out there that wanted him, definitely, especially that high. So, I guess the Chiefs do have something there. At least they should, or they think they do. Okay. So, you got that. Marcus Mariota, he's still a young quarterback. He plays like a vet. I mean, he's probably, out of all these guys, one of the better ones. I'd say that right now he's better than Dak. I'd say right now he's better than Garoppolo. He's better than Goff. He's better than Mahomes. Okay, who else are we missing? He's better than Trubisky, who we haven't even talked about. But Trubisky's still real young. All right. Mariota, I mean, he made the playoffs last year. Didn't play well. Got Matt LaFleur coming in. Should have the best year of his career this season. All right. Then speaking of Mitch Trubisky, I think the Bears got their quarterback there. I think he's going to have a decent year this year. I mean, it's going to be a second season, so you can't really expect too much. But I think he's going to do fine with Matt Nagy and Mark Helfrich. All right. But as far as who the best young quarterback is in the league right now, I'd say it goes Wentz, then Mariota after that. Actually, let's rank them. So we said Wentz. You got Mariota. All right, number 2. Then I'll go Goff. I'll go Dak. Garoppolo. Trubisky. Am I missing anyone else? I don't think so. I didn't rank Garoppolo that high, mainly because I want to see him play a full season first, so I'm still waiting to see what he looks like. But nonetheless, I mean, a lot of good young quarterbacks in the league right now. A lot of quarterbacks just about to hit their prime. There's a lot of quarterbacks who are on the downfall of their career, so we'll see who is going to take the throne from Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers next. But next up, we're going to be talking about teams who could slip under the radar and be a possible Super Bowl contender this season. So stay tuned for that, and I will be right back.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA, from the UFC to extreme cage fighting. They got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. So far today, we've talked about Jameis Winston, whether or not the Tampa Bay Bucs should cut him. I think they probably should, but I'd say wait after this season. If it's still looking bad, then you get rid of him. All right, and then for the second segment, we talked about a lot of the young quarterbacks in the league right now. Ranked them, talked about who I thought was the best. So we've done that so far for today's show. Now we're going to be talking about some under-the-radar teams. Some teams who, you're not really paying attention to them as far as Super Bowl chances, but they could swoop in and do something this season. All right, obviously you got the Eagles, okay? The Vikings, the Patriots, the Rams, your Super Bowl contenders, Steelers, okay? What about the other teams? What about the Chargers? What do we think of them? Do we like the Chargers? I like the Chargers. But you know what the biggest problem with the Chargers has always been? Is that they have some problem with playing late in the season or in the playoffs to where they will just forget how to play football. All right. The Chargers are a team who probably should have gotten a Super Bowl either in the mid-2000s. All right. That at least I think we know. When you have Phillip Rivers, LT playing, all right, they should have did something. Marty Schottenheimer out here going 14-2 and getting fired. That obviously means, yeah, we messed up. We should have won a Super Bowl along the way here. All right. Looking at their team right now, you got Phil Rivers at quarterback, Melvin Gordon, Keenan Allen, Travis Benjamin, you got Tyrell Williams, Mike Williams, who you drafted last season. All right, tight end, that's a bit of a problem. You got Virgil Green there. You had Hunter Henry, who I thought was going to have a great season, but he tore his knee. All right, now you pretty much got to figure out what else to do. I don't know why they haven't brought back Antonio Gates. Maybe it's one where they got like a little handshake agreement where Gates is like, yeah, I don't want to come to training camp, so when it's time for me to play, I'll be out there week 1. Maybe it's one of those type of things. All right, defense, you got Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram on one side, on both opposite sides. What more could you ask for there? Okay. Linebackers, you got Denzel Perryman, who's a pretty decent one for that team. Secondary, you got Casey Hayward. All right, Desmond King, Jason Verrett, who's played very well. Drafted Derwin James. This team's pretty stacked from top to bottom. And I think, this Chargers team probably all around is a top 3 team in the AFC. Okay? But do we not talk about the Chargers because we've become so used to the fact that chances are when it's a late game, week 17, week 16 or whatever, games on the line, we know that they're going to lose it. Okay, we know if they make the playoffs, they're only going to make it to the divisional round and then get bounced. Or better yet, they'll make it to the AFC Championship game, and if they're playing Tom Brady, then they'll lose. Is that what we've gotten to with the Chargers? Okay? And I think it might be, because this Chargers team is very good. This Chargers team, all right, if we play it on paper, could beat the Patriots. You could argue this is one of the best teams in the AFC. All right. But nonetheless, I mean, like I said, people don't really talk about them because they always seem to blow it. All right. Why talk about the Chargers when you know it's probably going to end in heartbreak? All right. I got a friend who's a Chargers fan. Says for 15 years he's been dealing with, oh, we're going to do it this year. Oh, nope. Maybe we'll wait till next year. Maybe they won't blow it again next year. All right. So, I mean, the Chargers could fly under the radar if they learn to not choke. Okay. Well, who else is out there? All right. What other teams could actually do something? I mean, as far as the AFC goes, what teams do I like out in the AFC? There's not too many under the radar Super Bowl. I mean, maybe the Broncos. Okay, and before you give me the side eye look, I mean, think about it. The Broncos are 2 years removed from a Super Bowl win. All right, 2 seasons removed. Okay. You don't lose all your talent in 2 seasons. The only problem with Denver those last 2 years was that they didn't have a good quarterback. Now they might actually have one. Okay. You still got Von Miller. You added Bradley Chubb. I mean, you got a lot of that Super Bowl team still intact. It's just now you've upgraded one of your most important positions. Okay. Chances are that defense is not going to have to be on the field. It's 59 minutes of the game. Okay. I mean, looking at that roster, obviously you got Keenum at quarterback. You got Royce Freeman and Devontae Booker as the running backs. Royce Freeman, the guy out of Oregon that they just drafted. Okay. Receivers. Let's see. They drafted Deshaun Hamilton, drafted Cortland Sutton. You still got Emmanuel Sanders and Demaryius Thomas there. Jake Butt's probably going to be that team starting tight end this season. Going to be interested to see how he does, given the fact that he tore his ACL, what was it, one of Michigan's last games of the season last year? All right, he got drafted by the Broncos, sat a whole year. Let's see if his ACL is all repaired. Offensive line does probably still need some work. Okay, like I said, on defense, you got Bradley Chubb on one side, Von Miller on the other. You still got Derek Wolfe, who's still doing really well. Okay, linebackers, you got Todd Davis, Brandon Marshall. Shane Ray's going to be out there if he's healthy. Okay, cornerbacks, Tremaine Brock, Chris Harris Jr., Bradley Roby. You added Su'a Cravens. You got Darian Stewart. I mean, this should still be a very decent team. Okay. So, I think the Broncos could surprise some people this season. If this defense comes out and plays out used to, I mean, the offense's job is going to be extremely easy. All right. So I'm not giving up on Denver yet. Don't sleep on the Broncos. They still got a chance at something. I'm not saying they're going to go out and win it, but like I said, this team could fly under the radar and surprise a few people. All right. Let's see anyone else in the AFC that could really do some damage. I mean, the Jags are Super Bowl contenders, I'd say. Last year they made the AFC Championship game, but I'm not sure how under the radar it'd be if they made it to the Super Bowl this year. Okay. How about the Texans? I mean, I said within the next few years they'd make it to the Super Bowl, but what if that's this year? Okay. Let's say that Deshaun Watson comes back from his ACL injury and he hasn't missed a beat. Why couldn't the Texans make it to the Super Bowl? I mean, you can't tell me it's because of their defense. All right, of course you got to worry for injuries and stuff like that, but as of right now, defense is pretty healthy. All right. J.J. Watt, Jadeveon Clowney, solid secondary, solid linebackers. It's a Super Bowl caliber defense. Offense, what's the problem there? Lamar Miller's a decent running back. DeAndre Hopkins is one of the best. Will Fuller played extremely well when Deshaun Watson was out there. You're going to tell me the Texans have absolutely no shot this season? All right, they went toe-to-toe with the Seahawks, the Patriots last year. I mean, why not them? I think they could do it. Okay? Even the Titans, I think, could make a little run. I think they're going to be real good. The only thing that scares me about the Titans is their defense. I don't think it's a Super Bowl caliber type defense. Okay? So as far as like the under-the-radar teams in the AFC, those are the teams I think that could pull something off. I mean, of course, you got the Ravens, who, if they make the playoffs, they're usually a dangerous team. I don't see them making the playoffs this year. Bengals always get bounced in the first round. Miami has this thing where every few years they'll make a playoff appearance and get destroyed by an AFC North team. And as for the AFC West, I don't think the Chiefs, Mahomes, I don't think you get them there. And as far as the Raiders, I mean, I'm still clueless on what John Gruden can do. All right. I'm not too sure there, but nonetheless, I mean, who knows? Maybe Gruden could be really good for that team. All right. But nonetheless, I think we're going to spend this one just talking about the under-the-radar AFC teams. Next up, in the fourth segment, we'll talk about the under-the-radar NFC teams. But yeah, I mean, the Chargers are definitely a team who could make some noise this season. It's just a matter of if they got the mindset where they're not going to falter under the big time, all right, the big moment. Broncos are a team, they're not far off removed from a Super Bowl win. Okay, this is still a very good team. Demaryius Thomas, I think, put up nearly 1,000 yards last season playing for 3 different quarterbacks. The Texans, don't sleep on them at all. All right, Deshaun Watson comes back playing the way he did. I mean, why couldn't they win the Super Bowl, go to the Super Bowl this season? Obviously, with the Jags, I mean, no one's talking about them, but I don't see them as an under-the-radar type team. All right, I think everyone should expect the Jags to be pretty good this season. All right, and then, of course, you got the Titans. How about the Colts? All right, how about the Colts? What if Andrew Luck comes back week 1 and it's like, oh, yeah, this guy hasn't missed a beat? You don't think they could make a nice little run into the Super Bowl? All right, I understand they don't have a Super Bowl caliber team at all, but you got Andrew Luck. Dude's a top 5 quarterback when he's out there. He's an all-time talent when he's out there healthy. Okay? That's a team right there in the AFC that can fly under the radar and make a nice little run. The Colts. All right, you got Andrew Luck playing well, like he's the best quarterback of all time. That whole team is going to play well. All right? So the Colts definitely are a team to watch for. And it seems that Andrew Luck's 100%. He's going to be ready week 1 against the Bengals. All right? And that's one thing I'm really excited for, to see Andrew Luck play again. It feels like he's a myth. All right? Like, oh, remember Andrew Luck playing? Remember Andrew Luck? You feel like you do, but it's like, did he ever actually really do anything? All right? People forget that Andrew Luck made it to the AFC Championship game. So the Colts are definitely a team to watch out for. But like I said, next up, we're going to be talking about the teams in the NFC. So stay tuned, and I'll be right back.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. We spent that first segment talking about Jameis Winston. Spent the second segment talking about young quarterbacks of the league right now. Third segment, we talked about a few AFC teams who could fly under the radar and maybe make a run to the Super Bowl, possibly. Talked about the Chargers, the Broncos, the Texans, Titans, and yes, the Colts. All right. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised if somehow a couple things went their way. I mean, if you look at it, the Chargers have a real good team. Best team they've had in years, I'd say. Most complete team they've had in years. Okay? Broncos, they're not that far off from a Super Bowl win. Their Super Bowl window is still open. It's just a matter of if Case Keenum could do a job there. All right? Houston, I mean, why is that far off? Look at their defense. If it's healthy, it's going to be one of the best. You got Hopkins, you got Miller, you got Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson doesn't take a step back from his injury, then why can't they make it all the way? All right, it's not like they were hanging with big teams last year in the regular season. I know it's the regular season, but they look good. All right, then we talked about the Titans. I mean, that's a bit far off right there, I'll admit it. But nonetheless, I think that offense is going to be good enough to where they might make a playoff run. And then you got the Colts. Okay? People are laughing at that one. Let's not forget what Andrew Luck, how good he was. Okay? Let's not forget that at all. Colts could be real good this season if Andrew Luck's 100% and he has no shoulder problems and he didn't forget how to play quarterback after these 2 years. All right? So that's one I'd keep an eye on right there. The Colts. They could be that one team in the AFC where no one pays attention to, where you should have. All right? I get that they refuse to put talent around their star quarterbacks, but their star quarterbacks are good enough to where they'll make do with the talent they got around them. All right? Patriots fans pointing out right now in their cars or wherever they're listening to this. Tom Brady does that too. We know. We're talking about Andrew Luck, though. All right. So those are the teams in the AFC, I think, to watch for. Then there is the NFC. I mean, let's get it out the way right here. The Rams, Saints, Vikings, Packers, Eagles, all Super Bowl contenders. We will not be talking about them. All right, like I said, not the Rams, not the Saints, not the Vikings, not the Eagles. Those are already Super Bowl contenders. All right. But, I mean, the Panthers are a team that really sticks out to me in the NFC. That might be my Super Bowl pick, at least my way too early Super Bowl pick right there to make it out in the NFC is the Panthers. Okay, I've never been the biggest Cam fan either. I don't know why. It's like a gut feeling type of thing here. Okay. But they really drafted for need in this year. I mean, they drafted 3 cornerbacks, and I really like the DJ Moore pick. Okay? I think their offense is going to look extremely fun this season with McCaffrey. I think C.J. Anderson is a nice little upgrade over Jonathan Stewart. All right? Jonathan Stewart was just at this point where you needed to upgrade. Okay? At one point, sure, I'd take Jonathan Stewart over C.J. Anderson, but as of right now, I'll take Anderson over Stewart. All right? So I think Anderson's going to do well. Like I said, McCaffrey's going to be one to watch out for this year. I mean, McCaffrey could break 100 receptions this season. Last year he had 81, something like that? I know it was in the 80s, I believe. All right. I mean, if the Panthers could turn him into a running back who could run more in between the tackles, he'd be one of the best running backs in the league. Okay? I mean, he's already got the receiving ability like a Le'Veon Bell, Todd Gurley, David Johnson, but imagine if he could have the running ability of him. I mean, this would easily be a Super Bowl team if McCaffrey was that good. All right? And then, I mean, you got Cam Newton. Like I said, he's not accurate, but the dude knows how to win. He's just a winner. Okay? I've been trying to bet against the winner, but Cam Newton usually proves me wrong. I think they're a much better team this year, and I think they could make a Super Bowl run this year. That would not surprise me at all. Okay? And then you got the Giants. I mean, why not them? You got a quarterback who's been there before. You got one of the best running back prospects of all time. At least that's what I've been told. All right, it's what all the draft analysts have told me. And not told me specifically, but you see him talk about it all the time. Odell Beckham Jr., Evan Ingram. I mean, was a solid, great tight end last year. Not even solid, he was a great tight end last season. Sterling Shepard's a great number 2. And you got a defense who I think you got a lot of good pieces on there. And you got a guy... You got the old Arizona Cardinals defensive coordinator who I think is going to put him in a position to succeed. All right. So, I mean, the Giants are a team who can make a run into the Super Bowl. I mean, even the Cowboys could try and find themselves into the Super Bowl. Okay? Actually, could they? I don't think so. Their defense isn't good enough, I don't think. Offense is going to be real solid, but their defense isn't good enough. So I take that back on Dallas. They really got to improve that defense. All right? I mean, of course, the Packers are a team who can make a Super Bowl run. I'm not sure the Packers are a team that fly under the radar. I mean, you got Aaron Rodgers. Everyone knows when you got him out there, you have a chance to make it to the Super Bowl. Okay? What about Detroit? Could they make a run? I mean, let's say that Matt Stafford puts it all together. He plays well. Defense plays well. Offense is looking good. They're well coached. They got talent. Okay? I'm not sure what the problem has been over in Detroit, but the last couple of years, they haven't been a bad team. They've had talent. It's just something is keeping them away. All right? And I'm not sure exactly what it is, but Detroit, I would not be surprised if they look like one of the better teams in the NFC this season. Okay? So, I mean, Detroit, I wouldn't be surprised if they made a run. Like I said, we already talked about the Panthers. I think they're going to be really good. They might even be my Super Bowl pick. All right? Just to make it out of the NFC. Then you got the Falcons. Is that a team that would fly under the radar? I'm not too sure about that. All right. The Falcons should be one of the best teams in the NFC, if not the best. So I'm not even going to talk about them being an under-the-radar type team because they're not. They should be good. The fact that their offense looked so weak last season was just on them. So I'm not going to consider them an under-the-radar type of team. Okay? And as far as the NFC West, I mean, I'm not on that San Francisco hype train just yet. I'm not going to say that they can make an under-the-radar run because I don't think they will. All right. Seattle, possibly. I mean, we're really going to see what exactly Russell Wilson's made of. All right, he's already a great quarterback. He's already got a Super Bowl. He's already a top 5 quarterback. But if this guy could take this team to the playoffs, I mean, what more could you ask of from him? All right, and if Seattle makes it into the playoffs, that's a team you always got to watch out for. It doesn't even matter who's on the team. All right, I mean, they went 7-9 one year and won a couple of playoff games. Okay, or made it to 2 playoff games. Won one, I think they lost the next one. That was the one where Marshawn Lynch broke off for that crazy run that year, I think. Okay, against the Saints. Cardinals, what do we think of the Cardinals? They went 8-8 last year. I mean, maybe they could put together a little Minnesota Vikings type of run like Minnesota did last season. Sam Bradford's not a terrible quarterback. The dude just can't stay healthy. Okay? You got David Johnson, Larry Fitzgerald, Jaron Brown. Solid defense. I mean, it's not that far out there. Okay? But nonetheless, I mean, I'd say right now my only true under-the-radar teams that can make a run into the Super Bowl are the Giants. Okay? The Panthers. I guess that's it, because, I mean, the NFC, it's got a lot, like, there's not, like, the AFC, we got, like, 3 truly great, like, 3 teams, 2 teams that people really pay attention to. And the NFC is about 4 or 5 that you really need to pay attention to. So, I mean, I guess that's why there's not too many under-the-radar type teams. But, nonetheless, I mean, it'll be interesting to see who ends up making it into the Super Bowl out of the NFC. I mean, like I said, it's going to be real stacked and real competitive. So, we'll just have to wait on it. But as far as the AFC, I mean, the Texans, Colts out of the AFC South, and then the Chargers and Broncos are teams I could see flying in under the radar and maybe making a little Super Bowl run. So we'll see how it all goes down. We still got a lot of time left before the season starts. But we're going to wrap it up here. Today we talked Jameis Winston. We talked young quarterbacks in the league. And we talked about under the radar teams in the AFC and NFC. So thanks for listening to the GSMC Football Podcast. As always, I am your host, Jesse Tapia. I will be back tomorrow, so stay tuned, and I will talk to you guys later.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.